Greetings, Kindred. I am Voivode Maquette, and welcome back to Tapping the Vein. With me is Silent. Hey, Silent, how you doing today?
Hey man, I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself?
I'm busy. Today is like compounded with all the stuff I have to do, but I'm excited to finally get around to the very much anticipated Clan Lasombra tapping.
Yeah,
That sounded weird.
tapping the vein of the clan Lasombra. This has
Yeah,
been the most requested clan out of all of the clans that we've done.
absolutely. Yeah, no, it really has been, and I don't know. Part of me is just like, guys, come on, man. We're going in book order. Why are you asking when this is happening?
Because
But
they're
I
excited.
know
They're
they're all
excited,
excited. They're all excited. So
and they should be. This is a fun clan,
it
man. The
it
Lasombra are a rich clan.
mhm,
Uh, I have hated them on my worst days and envied them on my best.
yeah. Something fun to actually mention here is that my first character that I have ever played in V5 was Lasombra.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, yeah. That the NPC that I have that pops up every once in a while, Noah Masters.
yep.
That was the first. That was the first V5 character I ever actually got to sit down and actually play as a character, and
That's awesome.
not a storyteller. I love Lasombra in V5. I've heard a couple people will be like, "Oh, they're not as fun," but in my opinion, it's the same thing as Clan Tremere. Some of the ways that they have, I don't want to say nerfed, but like some of the ways that they've changed it have made them more playable
Mhm.
compared to them just being some big scary thing in the background that makes it so that nobody wants to hang out with you.
Yeah, it's to call it a nerf is just is not doing it this fairly. It's a redesign, right?
Yeah,
It's a restructure and a redesign of how things interact and how they work. But the themes and the powers are all roughly still there.
yeah,
Um, if you go back to the Gangrel episode where I talk about my first character being a Gangrel,
hmm
my first interaction with how that character died was a Lasombra Elder.
hmm
So I have some mixed feelings about them as a player, but that's just petty jealousy and stuff. But their powers have always been terrifying.
Oh yeah, no. I
Um,
mean, dominate
and they
potence and what used to be,
obtenebration.
obtenebration, now oblivion is it's
Like
terrifying. It really is.
I told somebody the other day, I was like, I kind of miss Old World of Darkness. The arms, the Shadow Tendrils power.
Yeah,
Like it was completely broken and not balanced well at all,
yeah.
but I still miss it sometimes. But uh, I think that's an indicator of the fact that like Lasombra were not balanced well mechanically in previous
Well,
editions.
they never really have been because like they were originally
True.
created as NPCs. Like Zamitzi
Hmm.
and Lasombra were supposed to be the two clans that were not playable when
Yeah.
that when Vampire the Masquerade originally came out, and there were no rules for them.
Oh,
It
really?
was just literally description. Zamitzi can use skin and bone and bend bone like wire, and Lasombra can kill you with your own shadow. Storytellers have fun making that up. Like
Oh,
there
wow.
was no there were no rules. There was just here's a suggestion of what they can do. Have fun.
It was storyteller ad hoc,
Yeah,
whatever
because it
they
was supposed to be
needed to do
terrifying.
in the moment. Yeah. And I mean mechanically when we start seeing them in later editions, they were terrifying. But
Yeah.
I would argue that while they're not what they were in like V20 or previous, like second edition,
hmm
they're still terrifying. And a lot of the terror comes from two powers in particular,
Okay.
and that's the Shadow Tendrils and the Stygian Shroud.
Absolutely. No, at Stygian Shroud is probably my at my table is one of the things that terrifies the players the most when I pull that out.
Yeah. Now I will say, as a gangrel at heart, every time somebody's like, "But what about shadow shrouds or whatever?" and I just turn on Eyes of the Beast to go, "I ain't scared of the dark,"
Yeah.
you know. But Arms of Oblivion, or the Arms of Ahriman is what they are called in fifth edition
Mm.
now, and they're not. It's not you spend a blood coin or blood trait and then generate that many number of arms, and then those number of arms can take that many number of actions.
Yeah.
But it's still scary in its own right. because it's not a physically resisted discipline.
Yeah, no,
You
that's a difficult power to get past because there almost
and
is no physical way to really defend against it.
exactly. And so all of the disciplines that bolster a kindred's physical abilities still do nothing to fight against the shadows of the Lasombra.
Yeah,
So it's in its own kind of redesign. Like I said, it's not really a nerf or a retcon of what their powers can do. It's just simply a mechanical redesign to
yeah,
fit the
and
V5 system.
we've seen a couple redesigns over the past editions. Like originally, to summon shadows, Lasombra used to have to cut themselves open, and
Oh,
it would
really?
pour out of them as if it was their blood. Then there was like it has to be like a certain number of feet away or something like that. Like there were different ways of doing, especially like the arms of the abyss or the arms of Aramain as they're called now, which used to be the old Dark Age name anyway, was arms of Aramain.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah, that they just carried that over from Dark Ages, but yeah, no, it's changed a little bit from having these like I don't know if did you ever play the old Hunter the Reckoning like GameCube video game? Because like the big bad in that game was a Lasombra.
No, I would have knew that that was a GameCube game because I love GameCube.
Yeah, Hunter the Reckoning originally like the big bad at the very end was a Lasombra, and when you go after him, there's these like these whips, these tentacle whips of shadow just that's like just lining the way, just smacking you the whole time. And you used to be able to do that kind of thing,
Yeah,
but in fifth edition, they have to obey the rules of being a shadow. They have to stick to the floor or the walls, and they effectively they go after your shadow. At least that's how I see it.
yeah. So this is actually an interesting thing. The Lasombra in previous editions, I think, actually caused this like visual narrative to happen across multiple tabletop games,
Hmm.
including D&D. In that shadow and like the D&D's 5e spell, I think of particularly darkness creates supernatural darkness that you can't see through without special means. Well, that's just Stygian Shroud,
Yeah.
right? But what a lot of people in the D&D community have an issue with is it's like it doesn't create this inky blob of darkness, which is
Hmm.
what it used to create in older editions, right? It was like the darkness became like a physically manifested, like inky kind of
Yeah, we used to call it
like
globe. We used to call it globe
yeah,
of shadows because it would just be a floating ball of shadow that would move with you. Like it
right.
could move at
But
your thought, but
but
it
but
wasn't the same.
when you think about what shadows and the way that actually works is like that's not how light works.
Yeah.
Shadows are simply the absence of light in due to an obstruction or lack of light thereof. And so having having that restriction of them having to obey the laws of light makes a
Hmm.
lot of sense. And I think we haven't really got before we get into what the Lasombra are like as a clan. Uh, I don't. Have you watched all of the Castlevania anime on Netflix?
I think I saw the first season and then life got insane.
Okay. Well, anybody who's ever seen the second season, there's a character named Carmilla,
Hmm.
and if I don't know if you've ever read the book Carmilla, but she was like a vampire who could like move and turn into shadows and stuff.
Oh yeah, no, she's
Uh,
famous. She's in a whole bunch of different pop culture stuff.
oh yeah.
She was in like one of the Vampire Hunter D renditions. I think the second one.
Oh really? I
Yeah,
haven't
no,
seen it.
she's in a lot of stuff. She's a pretty famous vampire.
Okay, yeah. Well, she's also in Castlevania season two, and she there's this really awesome scene where she's talking to a character named Hector,
Mhm.
and she's manipulating him, trying to turn him against Dracula, and he goes down this. They're outside on this balcony, start going down this staircase, and she's talking and kind of saying some risky things, and he's like, "You should really learn to keep your mouth shut. Don't speak about these things in Dracula's castle."
Hmm.
And then he gets to the bottom of the stairs and she walks out of the shadows in front of him and just uses it as like an intimidation factor or like a kind of a very subtle show of her power
Yeah.
as she's continuing to like kind of lull him over with her words. And it's one of my favorite visual moments, one of my favorite visual like things when it comes to what the Lasombra are capable of doing and what I imagine they look like.
Yeah.
um But I mean, getting into the clan, where do we want to start? Like, there's so much to talk about with this
Well,
clan.
I think if we just go by what the book is, this just we're going into we're looking at the Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition player's guide for most of the information. We'll be comparing this back and forth with the Chicago book because there have
Yep.
been some changes narratively as things have gotten updated. But the first thing that we should probably talk about is their disciplines. They have Dominate, Oblivion, and Potence. And I think I pointed this out last video when we talked about the Hecata, but I think one of the big reasons why the Giovanni switched to the old Cappadocian disciplines was because they have the exact same disciplines as the Lasombra,
Yeah, they
which is something that's
obviously,
funny to me.
yeah, for meta reasons, they obviously didn't want two clans packing the same exact discipline
Yeah.
spread. Um, however, I would say like I completely lost my train of thought there going on the disciplines. Oh, um, Oblivion. So we
Yeah.
didn't really touch. We didn't really. I mean, we could have probably talked for another 2 hours in the Hakata video about Oblivion.
Yeah, well,
Just
I haven't been trying to focus too far on disciplines on Tapping the Vein yet. I mean, I could actually
right,
see us doing whole episodes just based on a discipline. But
sure,
um but yeah, Oblivion is it's so much different from what we're used to in other editions. It is
yeah.
one of the big major retcons of 5th edition, and
See, I
that's
don't see it as. I personally, again, I don't see it as a retcon. It's a redesign that brings the narrative forward in the mechanics. That's my personal opinion.
I agree, but the reason I call it a retcon is because now the Lasombra and the Hecata have the same discipline, where originally necromancy and obtenebration were two separate things.
It's the same narrative. It's the same mechanical redesign to fit the same narrative of the Tremere having thaumaturgy and the Banu
Yes.
Hakim having quietus.
Yeah, and I
It's
again I consider that a retcon too, but
but well, and I mean that's fair. I still see it as a redesign because I think narratively they come from this. Like the powers themselves come from the same source, but it's the execution of those powers and the practices of those powers that make them different,
and
right? So like
that I
while
agree with, but like
the
they also
discipline
did
is,
like a huge cosmology change in World of Darkness.
I don't think they did.
They
I don't.
did because it used to be here's the Skinlands, here's the Shadowlands, here's the Umbra, here's the world of Shadow, not the Shadowlands, but like another world where shadow creatures exist. Like there used to be layer upon layer upon layer of these different dimensions, and the Lasombra were able to tap into the abyss, which was not the same thing as the Shadowlands, which also had an abyss. Like it was like there was this strange overlap, but now they've cut down the cosmology so that there's not as many layers to it any longer.
See, I just sent you a picture in the Discord in our Discord chat. I've always thought that because this is an old world cosmology map, and when you get into the underworld, which is where the traditionally necromancy powers come from,
Hmm.
the abyss is right next to it. It's in that lower. It's in the lower planes, kind of the World of Darkness cosmology.
Yeah,
And so I don't, like I said, I don't necessarily see it as a retcon, or I hadn't seen it as a retcon as much as I saw it as the just the cult, like a mechanical redesign of saying like all these powers, while they are separate and they influence separate places, or pull their power
hmm,
from separate places, they all come from like the same lower kind of realm, or the same lower planes, to use
yeah.
like D&D terminology. Um, So I mean, I don't know if they've released a 5th edition cosmology map that would maybe like
They
contradict the one I'm
they
sending you, but
haven't
like
they haven't, but the big difference that I'm seeing is that part of Oblivion, the discipline of Oblivion, part
mhm,
of it now messes with those that exist. I don't want to say live because it's the Shadowlands, but
sure.
those that exist in the Shadowlands, like wraiths and specters, and the actual environment of the Shadowland itself now, which is more like the Oblivion style powers that we're used to with Clan Lasombra.
Can you explain that or elaborate on that for me? I don't think I quite understand what you mean.
Sure. Where The Hecata are going to be more prone to deal with wraiths and other things that exist inside the Shadowlands. The Lasombra are going to be dealing with the actual geographic setup of the Shadowlands instead. Like they can actually manipulate the way that the Shadowlands is physically set up. I don't know if that helps at all.
I get where I think I understand what you're saying, but I don't know where you're getting that from. Like where what gives you the input or like, what implies that they can manipulate
Well,
the makeup of the Shadowlands?
things like Stygian Shroud and Oubliette and stuff like that. That's like manipulating nihils. You know, the rips in the fabric of reality in the Shadowlands, and making it so that people have to experience it here in the Skinlands.
I see.
Maybe
Okay.
I'm just reading into it a little bit too much, but that's just the way that I've seen it. Um, the time that I got to spend playing Noah really just helped me dig into that kind of thing, and I kind of feel like it fits in with. And I'm stepping into an area that I don't really want to get into because I want to talk about the clan.
Yeah,
Um, but it kind of feels that way with the cult of Shalim as well, which is a worshipping of an entity that lives in the Shadowlands.
hmm. I don't know. I will have to. We need to. We can circle back to this conversation later because I
Yeah,
think that the cult of Shalim is a part of the clan itself.
yeah,
Is something worthy of note, especially in fifth edition because they have lore sheets for them.
yeah, because it gives us
Um,
like some actual substance for abyssal mysticism.
exactly. Yeah. But the clan as a whole, they go by a handful of little nicknames
Hmm.
that have. I don't correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think they've changed really. Um,
Clan of the Night, Magisters, Keepers, and Shadows. Those are the typical. Those are the typical nicknames for Clan Lasombra in pretty much every edition that they've been available.
that's what I thought. I know they started. I didn't know if Magisters has always been one of their nicknames. I know they
Yeah,
used to go Keepers.
yeah. Magisters. Magisters, I believe, was introduced in Dark Ages.
I see. Okay, so yeah, forget V5 pulled a lot of Dark Age stuff back
Yeah, they really
out
did.
of the old stuff.
So, yeah, discipline wise, I just, I don't know. I really enjoy the fact that Oblivion and Necromancy, they're the same thing now.
Yeah,
Um,
I do too.
it actually kind of, and I pull this out all the time, and I get people who are like, yay, and then I get people that are like, boo. But I like to talk about like the Mask of the Red Death trilogy,
Okay.
which is just a really fun example of let's see what happens when we put every single bit of massive world shifting lore in one story. Uh, which is like the worst idea for a storyteller, but it's a really fun guilty pleasure book. Uh, there's a Giovanni in that storyline who uses obtenebration, and there's no real excuse for it. She just seems to have it,
Okay.
and it really kind of like I don't know the Oblivion being a mix between obtenebration and necromancy thing just kind of like it legitimizes that part of that story for me, so it just kind of makes me happy.
Yeah, I mean, so Oblivion is just like it's the essence of death,
Hmm.
and I mean vampires being undead creatures, right? I think the Lasombra, the reason narratively why the Lasombra and the Hakata are so strange and so frightening is because they are effectively manipulating the very essence of what vampires are,
Yeah,
right? Creatures of death, creatures of the darkness. Um, and that goes back to one of my favorite V20 quotes was the Gangrel's quote, like a stereotype of the Lasombra
hmm,
was I'm not afraid of the dark, so I hope you have something scarier under that cape,
yeah, yeah, yeah. I love that
But
quote.
that they really are frightening to a lot of things in the narrative because I mean vampires are creatures of the night
Hmm.
and the Lasombras are masters of the night, so it's like and that I think that lends itself too to the rivalry between which there are a lot of like real world political reasons why they rival with the Ventrue, but I think that again is
Yeah.
another reason for it.
Well, that was always a fun thing to hear is that the Venture have fortitude because the Lasombra have potence.
Yeah.
Like that was always something that was thrown around at games.
Oh yeah, I mean they really are comparatively opposites.
Mhm.
I've always had an issue with that with the direct comparison because especially in like second edition Laws of the Night, obtenebration was a social discipline,
Yeah. Which I
and so
miss.
like
I miss the whole you have to like persuade the shadows to do things for you. That was
really
something. Yeah, I really do because it felt like the shadows were their own entity,
okay,
and
that
that
makes sense.
you had to basically like caress them into doing what you wanted them to do, not just command them. And that
It
was
was a
always
lot.
something interesting.
It was mostly manipulation.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
which I think
making
fits
things
the.
do something is, manipulation. But
Yeah, well,
like,
I'm just saying I think that fits the Lasombra to a T.
yeah. And their place against the Ventrue, I think that also kind of goes along with the idea that the Zemitzi against the Tremere situation.
Mm,
I think it's like, here's your leadership of the Camarilla. You've got the Ventrue sitting in the chair, and you got the Zemit, and you got the Tremere whispering in their ear.
yeah,
And then
and then
here's the leadership of the Sabbat. You got the La Sombra who are giving the orders and sitting in the chair, and you got the Zemitzi who are like handling the spiritual needs and whispering in the La Sombra's ear.
yeah.
Like it was just a dark reflection of the other.
Oh, absolutely. You could get me talking all day about that particular topic,
Yeah,
and that like the Camarilla is supposed to be like the quote unquote good
good,
guys,
good guys. There's no good
but
guys in this game.
but the brutal reality is that the Sabbats being honest when they're saying like they're worse than we are
Yeah,
because we at least have the dignity to look at you in the face and say we're a monster,
yeah.
you know. So
Well, the lack of lying.
yeah,
It's the acceptance of what you are.
yeah.
I think the Sabbat has always had that over on the Camarilla more than anything.
And the Lasombra are no small part to play in that.
Mm-mm.
Like the Lasombra and the Zamisi founded the Sabbat, which I mean is a huge part of the clan's history.
Mm-hmm.
Because up until what was the year in the V5 narrative? Is it 2020, 2018, something like that?
Which
The
event?
Lasombra, when the Lasombra, the Amici Noctis, the Friends of the Night, the leaders of the
Ah,
clan, decided the Sabbat was no longer fruitful for their success.
yeah, and I think that's more of the when you read in the Sabbat book, there's a description from one Lasombra who had actually gone to the Gehenna War and came back, and explained what the Lasombra had seen. Where it's the Camarilla are adept at hiding, and that's
Hmm.
what the Lasombra need for survival right now.
Yeah,
And
and well,
the Lasombra
that's
are the Darwinists. They
I'm not
are
gonna
gonna
say that's
survive.
not in the Salat book, but that is also in the. There's also a pretty lengthy little narrative in the Chicago book
Hmm.
that talks about what like seeing this thing with that
Did I?
resembled a
I'm sorry.
human,
Did
but
I say
like
Sabbat book?
you did, yeah.
Oh, I meant the Chicago book. I apologize.
Okay, okay, yeah.
Yeah,
I was
no,
gonna say it
there's a
could very
whole
well be in the
thing.
Salat book too,
There's
but
a whole thing about a Lasombra who goes to the Middle East in the Gehenna War and actually like sees stuff and is just like, "Yep, nope, we're gonna nope out of this one,"
yeah, yeah,
and then comes
it was
back with
fun.
like severe PTSD.
Yeah, well, I mean, the writing, the way it was written, was actually kind of chilling
Yeah, I
because
felt
it
bad
talks about
for a Lasombra. That's rare.
because like it talks about seeing this like human-like entity
Hmm.
with covered in static in the in like a camera or whatever from a
Yeah,
camera that was reported it, but then it just opens its mouth and becomes the void,
yeah.
and just everything gets pulled into it, and I'm like, that is terrifying.
And it makes you wonder,
Could you
like, is that
imagine?
some Methuselah that got up, or is that Lucian? Is that the Lasombra antediluvian themselves?
They said, I think in the book that was the point of contention, was like they were under the impression it was a Methuselah when they went to
Yeah,
get it.
because like you've got a group of
But then they started to
Lasombra,
wonder.
you got a group of Lasombra and Banu Hakim who rush into the Shadow Sanctuary, go after a creature that has more dominate than you do.
Yeah.
Do you really believe that you killed it?
It is more dominate than you even know exists,
Yeah,
more
like
than likely.
it can change the existence of what happened to everybody in the room at once, and everybody walks away going, "Yep, we won that fight."
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Yeah.
like
Well,
like
it's I mean Yeah, I mean that's actually something we should probably talk about a little bit.
Okay.
I mean, the contention between the Lasombra and the Ventrue and the the separation of political factions in the modern knights for vampires was fundamentally that wedge was fundamentally driven the moment the Lasombra supposedly killed their
Killed their
antediluvian,
antediluvian.
and they're like, we'll no longer serve the elders,
Yeah.
right? And so that action alone, or that event, is what kind of forged the Lasombra into the leaders of the Sabbat,
Hmm.
and the rest of it just became history, you know. But I have an interesting question for you.
Sure.
This is a fun little thought experiment. Do you think the Lasombra ever actually gave a crap about the Sabbat,
No.
or the apparent mission that the Sabbat had?
I think that we are dealing with a group that is specifically known as the Nihilists, and asking if they cared about anything. No. I think that they realized that they assumed that they had killed their antediluvian.
Mm-hmm.
The Tzimisces brazenness to be able to just get in the face of the like the famous slap heard around the world from Vikos to Hardestadt.
Yeah.
We won't go into detail on that one, but
Nope. Not.
the the famous
If you want to
slap.
know, look it up.
We'll get into that with Clan Tzimisce. But the slap heard around the world, like where like that group formed the Sabbat, and then the Lasombra came in and said, "Yeah, well, we actually like killed an antediluvian." The Tzimisce claim that they have killed an antediluvian also, but depending on which story you read, they didn't succeed in that either.
Right.
And
They think they did.
they think they did. So you've got these two groups that basically are the bond breakers. You know,
Mm-hmm.
they're the ones who killed the antediluvians. They're the ones who broke bonds, who broke the blood bonds using Kaldunic sorcery. And then all of a sudden, they've got this army at their disposal who look up to them, who respect them for what they did, like the original Anarch movement.
Right.
And yeah, like I don't think the Lasombra actually ever cared. They cared about their power.
Yeah.
And they
Well, that's what I was.
realized quickly that it was starting to slip and it was time to jump ship and go to an area where people know how to hide.
That's because my boys, the Panders, were the real Sabbat all along.
Can't
Shout out to the Panders.
I can't deny that at all.
Yeah, I know. I know you can't. Feels good to be right.
The Panders have to have a place.
Yes, that's
Um,
right.
so going deeper into the book, though, we have the Bane, the Lasombra Bane.
Yeah.
The disadvantage of Clan Lasombra has always been very interesting. It's gone back and forth from they have a shadow that actually works like the portrait of Dorian Gray, where like they just slowly rot in their own reflection until there's nothing left, and then they have no reflection, to you can kind of see through it, to it's massively distorted. Um, and it kind of goes in various directions. The book actually says anyone seeing the reflection or recording, live or otherwise, of a Lasombra vampire can instantly recognize them for what they are, provided they know what they're looking for. People with no prior knowledge will know something is wrong, but likely attribute it to a distortion or irregularities in the reflection surface or recording errors. Um, Note that this will not hide the identity of the vampire with any certainty. The Lasombra are no less likely to be caught on surveillance than any other vampire. In addition, use of modern technology. Making a simple phone call requires a technology test at a difficulty of 2, plus Bane severity, as microphones have similar problems with the voice of a Lasombra as cameras do with their image. Avoiding electronic vampire detection systems is also done at a penalty equal to the Bane severity. This, I find, is massively exaggerated when you see it used in most games.
Yeah, it's ridiculous how it's used in most games. Like I get it,
I
rule of
blame
cool,
I
but I
blame New
like
York by Night and LA by Night for this
yes, I do too.
because like
It's,
Coco the La Sombra,
you are not a walking EMP.
she was just picking up cell phones and destroying them just for the hell of it, and all it does is distort their voice.
It
It
distorts their so it only the way that it is intended is that when a La Sombra goes to intentionally use technology, it does not work the way they intend for it to.
mhm.
So texting your coterie member that or texting your sire that you have a problem, you accidentally text, your mortal contact
I would, you know
that
what? I
or
would say that it
depending
works
on it
like
depends on
texting
the
with
role.
gloves on.
It
You
depends
know?
on the role, right? Like you're gonna have undesired
Yeah,
consequences when you fail the role. If you succeed the role, it's tedious, but you manage to get it
yeah.
done.
And I've had players playing La Sombra who are like, oh, my character can't go into a hospital because if they walk down the hallway, all the people who are hooked on life support are just going to die. And I'm like,
Yeah,
it's not how that works. If you tried to mess around with the machine, you might short circuit it for a second.
yeah.
But like walking by, it's not going to cause a problem.
I think
Like,
narratively it's fun. I think narratively it is fun to reveal because it's like walking like in older editions when
yeah,
they just didn't have a reflection, right? It's like walking down a room full of mirrors, or like
hmm
walking through a hospital hallway with all the glass, around them.
hmm
You're not going to see the reflection in any of the doors or any of the windows, right? So I think that a narratively fun thing to do, similarly to that, would be like electronics kind of like static or fits or
yeah,
like lag for a second in their presence, but they don't short circuit
yeah. They
them.
don't break.
They're not EMPs. Um,
I've actually always been a big fan of the whole concept of like your reflection states what you would be at naturally. So like the longer you're walking around, the more like decomposed your reflection is.
See, I've always personally liked the because it's a traditional vampire superstition
Yeah.
that they don't have reflections because they don't have souls.
Well, they don't
Um,
have reflections. Originally, that was because vampires used to have an issue with silver, and
uh,
all mirrors used
mirrors
to
for
be
silver,
backed with silver.
right?
And that actually, like, I've actually heard, I've heard argument that that's because like Judas was a vampire and
Uh,
his payment of silver caused vampires to have issues with silver, so now they don't have reflections. Like it goes in so many different
oh
directions.
yeah, no, there's a lot like there's the silver thing, there's the no soul thing,
Hmm.
like that, and that comes more from like um I think early America's like border. There's other cultures that are like this, but the one that predominantly comes to mind is like Native American cultures. Like there are a lot of people who wouldn't let you take pictures when
Yeah,
those
well,
fish were
that's
around.
that's
They
big
were afraid
in
it was captured and
Australian
everybody was
Aborigine also is
right. Yeah,
you don't take their picture because it
and like
swipes
Amish
part of their
communities.
soul.
Yeah, Amish communities are very similar to that
Hmm.
in those places. Uh, but like the yeah, my interpretation of this is like I had a La Sombra player and I ran a game for like 2 years in set in New York, and my La Sombra player was uh, at had some confrontations with people,
Okay.
and these individuals were gunning for him, and they got their the coterie got their hands on pictures that had been taken
Hmm.
each of the individuals walking into the club that they owned. And so like in that particular instance, the La Sombra player, his image was like extended, right? Like his shadow was just unnaturally
Mm.
long in the picture. Like
Okay.
he just looked taller for some like his features like
Yeah, he was like
uh
distorted, like a funhouse mirror
yeah,
kind of thing.
yeah, he just looked taller, but his shoulders looked kind of broader, so like just weird things like that happen when they're in the picture, and they were like, this is a serious problem because if any hunter knows what to look for, they're gonna know who what he is,
Yeah, even if they
you
don't, they're
know?
gonna see something unnatural and go after it.
Right. So, it's supposed to be that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's in older editions it used to be like, oh, they're just invisible and their flaw became a superpower.
Yeah.
Their
Yeah.
flaw just became
Well,
free
unless you're
off the
walking
stage.
around a city that has a lot of reflective surfaces like windows and stuff like that in I know in the downtown area where I am, there's a good number of windows like buildings you walk by, and if you're walking around with a Lasombra, you just don't see them. Like just no
Yeah.
reflection whatsoever. Um
Or their reflection is like bestial and distorted, look
yeah.
like distorted in a way that's almost eerily bestial,
Yeah.
But yeah,
Um
I the whole EMP thing, I think the modern take
it's
on it
gotten a
is
little bit out of
overdone.
control in my opinion.
Yeah, no, it's a little overdone.
Yeah.
But the old world versions was also abused. It was like the
Well,
Lasombra have always just kind of been abused in that way
I
mechanically.
I have to, regardless of how a player wants to do it, I kind of have to throw that in the lap of the ST
Yeah,
because like if you got a Lasombra walking around town and not being seen, it's kind of up to you to decide like which NPCs are going to notice that this guy isn't showing up, in mirrors,
yeah,
and in which case have a proper reaction. People freaking out over it, gatherings like people gathering around to take pictures. Like
yeah,
that's like
absolutely.
you might gain some unintentional fame, which is going to lead to some very big problems.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's like going back to the game I was talking about, my Lasombra player. He didn't walk anywhere.
Hmm.
He he had the his driver would pull him up to the back of the club away from, because so one of the things that they did in their club, their club was called Taboo,
Uh,
which we actually sat down and made this, and it was really cool. The Lasombra player had a lot of input on this. Their club name was Taboo. The front door to enter the club was, the door frames were ladders that you had to walk under.
okay,
The front of the building was broken glass, and the concrete, upper layer of the concrete on the dance floor, or the
was
foundation
just
was
all cracked,
concrete was just all cracked and then covered over with like some kind of like, I forget what that was called.
like a resin kind of
Uh,
thing.
yeah, like a resin,
That's
yeah.
fun.
And yeah, so but the Lasombra obviously couldn't go into the front door of his club, right? And
Okay.
he did that intentionally, right, to drive off anybody else who was trying to, any other Lasombras that were going to try to
Yeah.
cause problems, obviously. So he would get dropped off in the back alley of the club and would always go in through the back, away from, trying to avoid attention from being seen
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that. And so I think that's something that a lot of Lasombra have to take into consideration, and their reliance on ghouls to keep them, so their appearance tidy, and
Yeah.
use cell phones and stuff, which is a big. I think that's an interesting, like, I don't know. I've always found that part to be interesting about Lasombra relationships.
Okay.
They hate relying on others, but they all have to rely on someone.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, that is something that has popped up. I know I had characters like I played a Lasombra in a Dark Age game a long time ago who was like a noble, snob, and
Hmm.
he used to have somebody who would just carry like a box of combs and stuff, like just to make sure he looked good
Yeah,
at all times because he couldn't look in a mirror. Um, Now, past the mirror thing, past the technology thing, we have the alternate Bane, which is set for Chronicles that focuses on humanity and the loss of it,
I
um,
love this vein.
which is callousness, which is whether from their tendency to select particular ruthless mortals for the embrace or that something gnawing at their psyches, Lasombra vampires tend towards the inhumane regardless of sect or on lifestyle. Something just seems off about them, and the Lasombra who care about their sanity must be extra careful lest their beast take another bite out of their humanity. When making a remorse roll, reduce the number of dice equal to the Bane severity from the Lasombra vampire, and this cannot reduce the dice pool below 1. So they're just meaner,
Yeah,
which kind of like goes hand in hand with the compulsion of ruthlessness. So
yeah,
like their alternate Bane is their compulsion at the same time.
Their alternate bane feeds their
Yeah.
compulsion, which is double. I hear a lot of people freak out. They're like, "I would never take callousness because Oblivion also can give you stains," and it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
but the lower your humanity gets, the more likely you are to not lose it.
Yeah.
You know, so
That's
it's
true
like
because you have to do more and more worse things
exactly,
to be able to lose your humanity over time. You can't just do the same thing over and over again. Eventually you're going to become callous from it.
exactly, yeah, yeah.
So, I mean, you got to have some kind of mechanics
I
for that. And I think
I
they did that
really,
well.
I personally, I really like the callousness lore sheet or the lore sheet. Gosh, the alternate bane.
Hmm.
Um, I can't help but look at it and go, that's the exact same bane I wrote for True Bruja, uh, long before La Sombra came out.
Okay.
It's the exact. It literally is. It's the
Yeah, I
exact
think we
same.
talked about that actually.
Yeah, it is. So like that gives me some interesting narrative thoughts of like, are the True Bruja like is Temporis just a strange like mixture between Oblivion and Celerity or something?
Oh,
There's some
that'd be
fun. There's
neat.
Yeah, there's just some fun thought like
That'd
realm
be
of thought
neat.
there. Is that the True Bruja aren't actually Bruja, but they're like some kind of La Sombra
I don't know.
spinoff or something.
What if they're a cult of Bruja that got a hold of Oblivion?
Yeah, exactly. Like I mean, that's absolutely possible.
I'd like to see amalgams between Celerity and Obtenebra or and Oblivion
Yeah,
that basically equal like what Temporis does. It
yeah,
freezes people in entropy. You know,
yeah.
like that sounds really interesting.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of mechanical space for it
Yeah.
in V5. It would be really fun to do.
So before we go on to archetypes, which I
Hmm.
really want to cover with this,
Yeah.
um, I want to point out, and we're gonna have to put these pictures up. Um, the two pictures that they have on page 30 and 31 of La Sombra examples. They are pretty interesting. You got like this goth chick, and you have this like older woman with like a ledger. But if you look at their shadows are different. The goth
Oh,
chick in the background is wearing a crown. Her shadow is wearing a crown, and the other one has this like monstrous, like demonic looking shadow. I just noticed that.
I
Well,
have never noticed that before.
it's a really cool little additive that they threw in. Good job, Renegade. Your artists are awesome for being able to think of things like that. Just the subtle differences of what the shadows are is
That's
perfect for
so
this clan.
cool. Yeah, that's so cool.
So for the archetypes, the first one that we have is the mentor, which is always trade up. So goes the old saying, and that's especially true for the mentor, who has managed to parlay a prince's barest, barest acknowledgement into one of the most prestigious hunting grounds in the domain as they teach their proteges, taking on a new one every decade or so, with the promise that they'll move into a different domain to help extend the web. Pre-station is the key to accomplishment, as so many other kindred are willing to pay later for what's offered tonight. And tonight, the mentor sits pretty atop a mountain of boons and secrets that would cause no end of havoc if they emerged from the shadows into the light of Elysium. I really like this concept, the
I
idea
do
of the
too.
person who's there to give you information, to
Hmm.
help you, teach you how to do things in exchange for favors.
Oh yeah.
And eventually just going, I'm top dog now. I have all the currency in the world. Like,
Oh, that's so It's so callously
mhm.
methodical. Like I just love that. And again, the player's guide has this tendency of the archetypes being more concepts, but I really like this one.
Yeah.
Like this one would be something I would enjoy playing.
Then there is the provocateur. I think I'm saying that right.
Yep.
Uh, Originally embraced to die as a sacrifice to the Second Inquisition, the Provocateur outwitted their sire and led Special Affairs Division to their sire's haven. Thus began a campaign of hunter baiting for hire, planting evidence, and thereby drawing out the FBI's elite to strike down their employer's force or their employer's foes. I cannot fucking stay on tack today. It's all part of a grander effort, though, as the provocateur hires out their services only to those kindred whose aims align with their own, and the risks increase nightly as the SADS leader, the Special Affairs Division, learn ever more about how the city's vampire threat operates. So this is the idea of a Lasombra who not only is basically allowing other kindred to hire them so that they can send the Second Inquisition to their enemies, but also is basically feeding the SI until all their opponents are out of the way.
You know who this is?
Hmm.
This is our going back to the Thinblood episode. This is our Hunter Thinblood.
Mm-hmm.
After
But
they
Lasombra.
but after they gained clan status in the Lasombra.
I can see that. I like the idea
Yeah.
of that happening.
This is a cool concept. It's a
Yeah.
dangerous concept.
It is
It's a
incredibly
very-
dangerous concept. This is a strong burn die quick concept in my opinion.
Yeah, because it's depending on how I can see like a really a very logical and carefully planning kind of player pull
Mhm.
this off, but this would be tough to pull off in most games, I think.
Yeah. I can see that. Well, anything that you're put in a position where you might be going after the other characters
Hmm.
can cause a lot of problems.
Yeah,
This could work really well in a LARP setting,
it
in
could
my
be very
opinion.
fun in a large setting,
But in tabletop, when you're making a character, it really needs to fit into the group, not divide it.
Well, I think so. I think this concept doesn't have to be divisive to the other players
Okay.
because you take requests. So this is this is what the city sees.
Mhm.
They know you're a fixer. You make problems go away.
Yeah.
Nobody knows necessarily how you make them go away. You just have a means of making them go away. They hire you to say, "Hey, this person's a problem. They need to not be a problem anymore."
Yeah.
You can either say, "I'll do it" or "I won't."
Yeah.
So if they come at you and hire you to take out one of the other player characters, you could.
Well, it says that you work for who you want to.
Yeah, I would take the job, but I would want the payment up front, and then I would send the SI to that person.
I mean, there is that. There is that.
Yeah,
Then
that's absolutely what I do.
Then we have the fashionable chronicler, with many elders recently heeding the beckoning. The fashionable chronicler has come into vogue along rising ancilli who have discovered themselves forgetting bits of their personal histories as they age. The fashionable chronicler turns to their stories into tangible mementos, poems, journals, memoirs, apologetics, to that these kindred don't forever lose their own memories. And it's a testament to the fashionable chronicler's disarming personality that the self-important kindred don't have any problem confiding their secrets. What's the story about the frog and the scorpion? I like the whole concept of this. I like the idea. It screams Kiosid, in my opinion.
It really does. Yeah.
The idea that like other vampires are going to come to you and be like, "Hey, I want to tell you my story," and you are going to basically novelize it for me.
Yeah.
That's pretty interesting, and I like how it talks about the concept of how vampires, as they age, you just don't have enough memory. You know,
Yeah.
eventually your RAM's going to run out.
Yeah.
You
Eventually,
know,
you're gonna run out of surface matter. Surface. What's the word? I apparently have ran out of whatever it is I'm trying to pick up today.
I think that a really good example of this is in the Playing the Sabbat game,
Uh
the
huh.
Playing the Sabbat book.
Yeah.
That right there, there's a portion in there when it talks about like how low your humanity gets,
Hmm.
that you forget who you were over
Yeah.
time. In that book, it talks about how you can play this like character that has like two humanity, and you don't even remember what your name was anymore.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting if you take into consideration that your humanity is connected to your touchstones and your convictions, and if you lose your
It's
touchstones and
attached to your identity.
convictions, yeah, if you lose them, you forget. You
That
forget what life was worth living for.
to me that's been the biggest, like, not to get off on too long of a tangent, but
Yeah.
like the humanity in a system, it's always been morality in older editions.
Hmm.
But in fifth edition, I don't see it so much as morality because everyone's morality is different,
Yeah.
right? And while there are some universal truths when it comes to morality, some absolute truths,
Hmm.
um, most people are going to feel guilt or shame based on what their personal code is. And
Yeah.
that's how V5's mechanics represent themselves. So the losing of humanity is not the losing of your beyond those like absolute truths, right? You're not there's losing your humanity is not losing your morality, it's losing your individuality, it's losing your identity.
Yeah.
You're succumbing to the beast. The beast's identity is becoming slowly usurping your identity.
Yeah. I have like seriously, remorse rolls are some of the most pain in the ass things that I have to do as a storyteller. Like
Why?
I like the system. I'm not gonna say that I don't like the system when it comes to that, but some of these damn players, some of these damn players are like they'll win their morality roll and be like, I don't fucking care that I killed that guy, and I'm like, oh my god, you're
Yeah,
supposed to like this is like you won, you feel bad, and they're like, I wouldn't feel bad about that, and I'm like, fine, lose a humanity,
yeah,
like
yeah,
like at that point, if you're just gonna argue with me, your character's just degrading.
yeah.
That's it. But
Absolutely, absolutely. Like
so
I was to say just real quick is like
yeah,
I always ask my players, do you feel like you should roll? Do
I
you feel
like
like you
that.
need to
I
do you
like
feel
that.
like
I
you
might
need to
have to
roll?
adopt that.
Like, do you feel like your character is struggling with what happened? If
Yeah,
they are, you can make the roll and determine whether or not they rationalize it and lose the humanity, or if they feel guilty and try to make changes,
yeah,
try to repent from that crime and move forward. Um, Sometimes they would say, "Yeah, I want to roll it and see what happens." Most of the time, that's what they did. But there was
yeah,
occasionally where they were like, "No, I don't feel any shame. In fact, I feel justified." And I'm like, "Okay, you lose the humanity."
yeah. All right. Last one in this book is the valet. Uh, traveling in the apparent service of an affluent but slow-witted aristo, the valet moves invisibly among the classes that never take notice of the help, gleaning high society secrets as they attend to their charge. Any suspicion directed the pair's way quickly moves on as the lording proves too stupid. Sorry, the lordling proves too stupid to be behind whatever misdeed earns the duo attention in the first place. And with late night hours spent among the service staff that frequently represents the inherent privilege of the gentry, the valet finds willing accomplices when some arrogant member of the idle rich needs to be a bit of a I don't even know what that is.
Uh, when the idle rich needs a bit of comeuppance,
Comeuppance. Oh my god, okay. Wow.
it's a weird
Anyway,
word.
yeah. I heard it. Never seen it
Uh,
actually spelt out before.
yeah, yeah,
So this is a very interesting concept. The idea of the I'm going to be in charge while I have a boss who thinks they're in charge. That's fun. I really see that as fun. I have a hard time seeing the Lasombra taking this.
Yeah, I was gonna say at first I was gonna say like this a Lasombra pretending to be the help,
Yeah, this
but then again they've kind of always been the one in charge in the shadows. Like
yeah,
they're the one you don't see in charge being in
that's
charge.
that's true. I kind
They're
of
not
see this
doing
as a good
they don't
caitiff.
yeah,
You know, like this would be a fun caitiff. It's like the Ventru walks in
absolutely.
and goes, "Oh, this is my man," and
Hmm.
in reality, the Ventru's got like one intelligence trait,
Yeah.
and that caitiff is like just making notes on everybody they meet. But it's
Hmm.
interesting. It's an interesting thought for Clan Lasombra.
Yeah. It's I don't know. I'll have to think on this one some more personally.
Okay.
Like I could see this one being fun, but this would be more fun for like a player driven story
Yeah.
where like the storyteller is just kind of feeding the player characters information about the world, but the spotlight stays primarily on the players and lets them kind of get in the driver's seat and take
Yeah.
action where they want to take action, and the world kind of just reacts to them.
Hmm.
I think this would be a good
That's
concept for that.
primarily how I run my games anyway. So.
True, yeah. I mean, and I run my games a lot like that too. But I also run my games where like there are things happening in the background,
Oh,
and I was
absolutely.
I
You
was
have to have
I was
that.
tell I always tell my players like you guys are 100% responsible for whatever actions you want to take. I'm not going to make you take any actions. Understand though that I do have like predetermined deadlines on certain plots.
Yeah.
Inaction is an action in of itself.
Well, last night, I was telling you earlier. Last night, like we ended up playing werewolf.
Hmm.
Tied in, like we're playing werewolf within the vampire plot line that I'm doing,
Right.
and the werewolf characters finally handled a plot line that occurred like a year and a half ago in the vampire game that was just ignored.
That's
And
awesome.
all of this stuff has been just running in the background this whole time. Things keep getting
Yeah,
worse, and everybody wonders why. And it's because things were not taken care of until last night.
that's awesome.
So, like, yeah, no, having those predetermined deadlines in the background, making sure that like there's always something in motion
Hmm.
is a pretty big deal.
Um, but yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, no, that's it. I was actually just going to ask, like, so did we want to do some comparisons to Chicago?
Yes, I was actually about to ask about that if we could. I don't know if we want to go through each of them like word for word here.
Mm-hmm.
But some lowdowns from the Chicago book. So for those who don't know, the Lasombra first debuted in V5 in the Chicago by Night
Yep.
setting. The clan was pivotal to the storyline of that book. So the archetypes presented in here are far more um, like they're far less specific. They're more generalized ideas
Mm-hmm.
that give you kind of a jumping off point of a theme to be inspired by, but then let you work out the specifics yourself. So they have the activist, which are effectively, uh, let's see here. In life, this character was likely a political or religious activist, recognized for the embrace by Alessandra, who shared or at least appreciated their vision. Such a character could be a libertarian, anarcho-capitalist, or even a member of a terrorist cell. So this is somebody who doesn't. The comparison that it kind of draws is like the rebellion between the Lasombra and the Venture and the
Yeah,
Sabbat and
yeah,
Camarilla.
yeah. I'm
Uh,
looking that up.
you got the Legate, which is basically because the somber value the art of the deal and those who make it. Uh, Whether in attempts to court power and influence, broker peace, or instigate a war, Lasombra found his character capable of the required task and embraced them. In life, they were likely a diplomat, a successful trader, or perhaps a marriage counselor or mafia conciliarge. Uh, then you've got the Masquerade Templar. I think this might be one of my favorite.
Okay.
They are the Lasombra target fighters for the Embrace. Let's see. They draw who, yeah, any mortal who has overcome extreme adversity draws the eyes of Clan Lasombra, often because the Lasombra placed that authority in the way of prospective childer. The mortal survived and triumphed over great and punishing odds. As a vampire, they fought on and proved worthy of their sire's respect, going on to fight against greater oppressors in the form of the Second Inquisition and the Sabbat.
Hmm.
I read that one all the way through because that one is probably my favorite and is, I think, the quintessential La Sombra embrace.
Okay.
It's like the La Sombra destroy your life just to see if you
That yeah,
continue
that's
to fight
always
through it.
been a big thing because they've always had this whole mentality of like being the Shadow Phoenix.
Yeah,
You know, your life is destroyed. Can you pick yourself up out of it?
yeah.
It's all
And
about mental evolution for the Lasombra.
it's also about seeing like how far will you go, you
Yeah.
know? Like they kind of mirror the ministry in this particular aspect of like trying to make somebody who's very morally like takes the moral high road most of the time in their life.
Yeah.
They will take that person and break everything around them, break them to the point of going, will you break your own moral code?
Hmm.
Now, the ministry will likely embrace you if you don't. The Lasombra will embrace you when you do, because morals are a weakness and they hold you back,
Yeah.
right? Like that's kind of the
Well,
mindset that
that's
they have.
that's actually something that I always thought was funny. Is like I get laughed at when I say this, but like I've always wanted to build a Lasombra based off of the song Bohemian Rhapsody. Because like seriously, that is a person whose entire life is just being ripped away from them, almost out of their
Yeah,
control.
yeah.
And
Well,
they they end in triumph. And that's just Clan Lasombra to me. At least that's what my mentality of them is.
I think the Lasombra more than any other clan are the most likely to choose a mortal at a very very young age and then destroy their life constantly, always work against them, give them
Hmm.
every setback and defeat that they can force like reasonably force on them
Yeah.
just to see how they'll handle it.
But if they stay
And
themselves through the whole thing, they're worthy for the embrace.
true, but they also do it in a way of like they're making who you would identify as your true self. They're kind of the ones responsible for crafting who you become
Okay.
because they've been working against you. They're chipping away at everything they don't like, right? And
Yeah, but the
and
moment you
pushing
give
you
up is when they just go, ah, you're not worth it, and they leave you to like
exactly.
suffer.
Yeah, absolutely. But if you continue to fight and continue to push on, and you check off all their boxes throughout the years,
Mm.
then you're going to be embraced into the clan. The last two concepts in the Chicago book, though, are religion's parasite. I can summarize this one without even really reading it.
Okay.
You're not a true believer in whatever religion you practice, but you absolutely will make sure everyone else follows those religious rules.
Yeah.
The hypocrite to the 11th degree, and you don't care because the religious position gives you power. And then the final concept is the winner at life. This one's kind of funny,
It's
actually. If you want me to read
Charlie
it,
is
Charlie.
Charlie Sheen a Lasombra?
Yeah. Uh, the
Yeah,
beaming
let's hear it.
athlete, the beaming athlete holding their medal aloft, the mother proud of her Rosette-winning daughter, the investment banker tossing cash at strippers, the actor with the cocaine lining his lungs,
Nice.
all exemplify the winner. Clan Lasombra loves winning more than they love the battle, and they will do anything to win. Weak humans who succumb to stressful failure hold no allure to the keepers. This character is possibly braggadocious and almost definitely envy inducing,
Yeah.
but few can even deny their perpetual success. Because when you said the Charlie Sheens, I was just like cocaine lining his lungs.
Oh my god, that
Yeah,
one's a lot of fun. I love the
yeah,
concept of the Lasombra who's just like I win, like just like at everything, who just gets
yeah,
overexcited about that.
yeah. They're
Um,
ultra competitive.
when I built Noah, he's based off of Black Mask from Birds of Prey.
Yeah, yeah,
Like I use the same avatar, like and everything. Like I use Ewan McGregor as Roman. Um, and he's just I don't know, just the spoiled brat
yeah.
who, if he doesn't get his way, throws a temper tantrum.
A
And
potence fueled temper tantrum.
yeah, a potence fueled temper tantrum, a necromancy and potence fueled temper tantrum. And I don't know, that was so much fun playing that character, and I don't know, I Lasombra grew on me, I think, from playing him. He was just a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah, so originally I never really like cared for the Lasombra that much, but as time has went on and I've seen more people play them, they have definitely grown on me.
Hmm.
Um, I think out of all of them, my favorites are the Winter at Life and the Masquerade Templar.
Yeah.
Because they embody the two things that I like the most about the Lasombra, and that's their just the sheer cruelty of just how stoic and tough you have to be to make it to
Yeah.
be a member of their clan.
That's absolutely
Um,
true.
but then the Winter at Life is I just imagine like to me the Winter at Life is the guy who won the Mega Millions
Uh-huh.
and has done nothing but wave that money around to any
And
and
just
every fancy
party.
and just partied all the time. That to me, that's the funniest concept for Lasombra.
I like that a lot. I really, really do.
Like he's the guy who owns like he bought a casino and he he's constantly gambling against his own
His own
casino,
house.
his own house. Yeah,
That's
why?
amazing.
Because he can. Yeah,
Because he
like
can. Who's going to
yeah,
stop him? It's
yeah.
his money.
No
Do
one's
what he
gonna, and
wants.
he's counting cards, but who's gonna throw him out? He owns the
It's his
place.
own place. He's
Yeah,
cheating against his own business. Oh my
absolutely.
god. I love that. I love that whole concept.
But he's counting cards, so what he's doing is he's working the tables. He's working for the house basically.
Yeah.
By counting the cards, he's catching other people counting, and of course he's going to call them out for counting,
Yeah.
right? Because they're ruining his fun, they're killing his buzz, you know. But then
Oh my
I'm going
god.
to make this character now. This is a lot of fun, actually.
Now No, I know that there's a lot of people out there who are watching this who are going to be like, well, yeah, but what about the Lasombra of leadership? What they
Ah,
have, who they are, what they are. And
yeah,
unfortunately, in fifth edition, if you're following, and I found, from what I've found, most people are, the rules that Kevin Jackson have placed on the Lasombra joining the Camarilla. Those rules are just for the Lasombra joining the Chicago Camarilla.
yeah,
But there's a lot of cities that have just taken Kevin Jackson as the example of how you should do things.
yeah,
Which means that the Lasombra still like have another 40 years before they're even allowed to have any type of leadership role in a Camarilla city. So like the idea of the Prince Lasombra is going to be incredibly rare. And the idea of like the Archon Lasombra, like people are going to be very, very careful of what they can actually take as a power. And right now that the Lasombra are kind of like effectively on executive vacation from any type of leadership position.
I don't know. I have many thoughts on this
Hmm.
particular topic. Obviously Marcus Vitel is the Prince of Washington D.C.
Well, he's not Cam.
No, he's
He's
not.
an independent. He's the Emperor
Sure.
of Washington D.C.
Yeah. But he's not Cam, but he's also not Cam, like um and then like the Chicago book does say that like Jackson's rules were like for every Lasombra, Anicile and Neonate, there had to be one elder sacrificed.
Hmm.
Um so obviously there's going to be a very limited amount of Lasombra who are actually
Yeah.
capable of killing their elders, right? Um So he set that up to basically say, "I'll let you in, but only at an extreme cost to you and
Yeah.
everyone around you."
Well, I mean, that's why
And he
Tally
and he
got screwed over.
yeah, and he did that on purpose, right? Because he doesn't actually want them in the city, but he also didn't want to be the guy who looked the Amici Noctis in the face and said no,
Yeah.
right? So, but also mentions that there are other examples provided for what other princes might ask,
Yeah,
and that
no,
could be
definitely. Like I said, it's
you know
just a Chicago rule set, not
right.
every city.
Yeah, so there's like the blood bond to the prince for I think it's like 15 years.
Hmm.
There's you know, you have to yeah, so if you have a child or they have to be blood bound to you for the duration of your blood bond to the prince. Um and then there's the one where it's like you can join but you can't embrace for 20 or 25 years.
Yeah.
No Lasombra don't have embracing rights until they've been in this city, the domain for 25 years, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are a lot of different examples.
Well,
I personally really like the ones that are just the ones that go, oh yeah, we'll let you in, but we're gonna make it really difficult for you
yeah.
because those are the most to me there are worse things in death in Vampire. and they often involve a blood bond or something significant like that.
Yeah. Now in Thicker Than Water, when the first player came up to me and said, "Hey, I want to play Lasombra," which was David, who came up to
Damien
me
will return.
with Damien, yeah, and also around the same time, Gwen came up to me wanting to bring in Deacon Royce, which was a character he played in
Yeah.
Thicker Than Water, got 15, 20 years ago, um, and they decided to come in as sire and child.
Yeah.
What we ended up doing is saying that the prince of the city was dealing with the whole, okay, only 3 Lasombra in the city at a time.
Uh-huh.
And he went up to a Lasombra anti-tribute, Deacon Royce, and asked him to embrace so that he knew that if any other Lasombra came into the city, he'd at least have 2 Lasombra on his side.
Okay.
Like, if another Lasombra comes in, there's no way he's going to outnumber me with like a group of Lasombra coming in if I already have 2 in the city who I can trust and control. Now that ended up
Right.
blowing up in that prince's face. Like
Yeah.
massively. Because Deacon was beckoned and Damien went insane. But like
Deacon was beckoned and Damien
lost
was
his head.
anaromed. Was Romad.
Yeah, oh my god, guys, be careful what flaws you take, especially if you have a sadistic storyteller like me.
Yeah.
My god. Anyway.
I know. I've started looking at because of that particular story. I want you to know how much that's affected me as a player
Okay.
because I'm playing most of the games I'm playing in are ran by you right now,
That's true.
and so the every time I go, I'm just gonna take a 2 point flaw. I don't want to think too hard about it. I just want to have like I don't want to overcomplicate it. I just want
Yeah.
to do something simple. Let me just put my 2 points in this flaw. Almost every single time after I do that, like I'll move on to the next thing. I'll start clicking or scrolling or reading,
Uh-huh.
and then all I hear is anaeroma, anaeroma.
Okay, listen. He came up to me with a 2 point flaw, and I said, "What do you want to do?" And he said, "Surprise me." And I'm like, "I'd really rather we didn't do that." And then I went over like what the rules were and what was available, and he's like, "Oh, let's do the harpy." And I'm like, "Are you sure?" I'm like, "You do understand that that's like the worst thing you could possibly do." And he's like, "No, it sounds like fun." Like I tried to talk him out of Anaeroma. He chose Anaeroma.
Oh, then it's his fault.
So I'm not taking any responsibility for doing that. I sold the guy the gun. He did with what he did what he was going to do with it. Like that's it's not my fault. Like my conscience is clean. All right.
Oh.
Okay. We
But yeah,
do. We
that's pretty much what's in the Chicago book.
okay. We need to wrap this up a little bit. What are your final thoughts after going through this on Clanless Sombra?
Uh, I mean, it's such a cool freaking clan, and I want to play one so badly. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we didn't talk about Lucida any, but like she's one of my favorite characters in the meta plot.
Yeah,
I love
I'm really
Lucida.
just looking forward to finding out what the hell is going on with Lucida.
I am
Like
too.
she's
Really,
apparently a
she's
cardinal,
her
and
picture is in the Chicago book.
it's yes, her picture is in the Chicago. Is it in the Chicago book?
Yeah, it's on the like third page of the Chicago book.
Oh wow, I know her picture is in the Sabat book. Like, and it's actually argued that that is her who's screaming on the cover.
Oh,
Um,
that could make sense.
as
Yeah,
her humanity is cracking away, because this was a Lasombra anti-tribute who was just like all against the Sabat, and then all of a sudden she's in the Sabat, leading the Sabat as one of the final like archbishops,
yeah,
one of the very rare like city holding elders.
yeah.
And I don't know, with her personal relationships with Peter Zune and Fatima and Anatole and Beckett and like all the other major characters, it's so hard to see someone fall that hard.
Yeah. I don't know, but I hope that whatever they have in store for her, it's epic
And deserving.
and deserving of
Yeah.
the character. She's one of my, like I said, she's probably I think even more than Beckett. Like she's probably my favorite. And I don't know why. I just think she's awesome. Like that's pretty much it.
I'm not
I just think she's
asking.
really awesome.
I'm not asking for like a happy fairy tale ending for Lucida. I'm asking for a
No,
deserving ending for
yeah,
Lucida. I don't want her getting beckoned and walking into the night and never being seen again. I want to see her go down fucking swinging.
no, yeah. Well, I mean, we both know that even if they don't do her that justice, we both know that's how she'll go.
Yeah,
Like she's gonna go down swinging.
I know.
But yeah,
I
I
really
sent you
hope
the
it's
picture that's in
represented
the
well.
Chicago book.
I didn't realize she was in the Chicago book. That's really neat.
Yeah, I sent the picture to you so you can put it on the screen
Okay.
if you want to.
Yeah, no, definitely. Oh, okay. That's very interesting.
Yep.
That's very fun.
So, yeah, no, the Lasombra are awesome. I don't think I've ever really played one. And that realization is just now hitting me.
Really?
Like as much as yeah, I think as much as I've always wanted to play one, but I don't think I ever have.
I've
I'm
played
gonna have to do
Lasombra a
that.
couple of times.
I have a very
Yeah.
specific vibe or theme that I want to hit with a Lasombra,
Okay.
and it's a very militant physical character. But it's one that I'm like, maybe I'm just like anticipating, like or like wait, kind of like the Malkavian thing is like I haven't found the right time to do it,
Yeah.
and I just need to do it. But
Yeah,
yeah,
you can't wait for the perfect chronicle to come along for something. You've got to make it the perfect chronicle, you know?
that's true.
And
Yeah, that's true.
that is as much up to the players as it is to the storyteller. And that's from somebody who runs like a vampire game like every other day. You know?
Hey, one of these days, I'll play one.
All right. So, any self-promoting you want to do as we trail off on this one?
Sure. Same thing as usual. I am Silent Comedy. You can find me over in the Our World of Darkness Discord. I really struggled to get that one out. I almost said the Our World of Darkness Darkboard.
And it's not wrong.
It's not
Our world of darkness.
Our World of Darkness. It's going to be the name of our comedy chronicle.
Yeah, we go.
Um,
World of darkness.
yeah. I am the Discord admin and the community manager for Maquette, as well as a independent like content consultant. I don't know why I'm having a hard time with words today, but I
I
am.
am too. I don't
Uh,
know what it is. I think it's the
yeah,
technology. I think the Lasombra flaw is getting to us today.
it's messing with our
It
brains.
is.
But yeah, so you can request my services to help you with the design and fleshing out the details of a character. The currently going with hourly rates right now, so if you were interested, you can DM me about those. You can find me anytime on Discord. You can at me in the Maquette server at any time of the day. I will get back to you as soon as I can. And other than that, think all that's left to mention is something that is like very fastly approaching, and that is the Darkness Emergent event.
Yeah, we got like 35 days, I think.
Oh, like the realization of like we're almost into May hit me,
Yeah.
and I'm like, oh crap, that's coming right around the corner.
Yeah.
I'm not ready.
Yeah. It's
So
time to go. Got to
it's
pack
gonna be
up.
a lot of fun. It's gonna be a lot of fun. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it for me.
All right.
Discord
Um,
stuff, consultant, character consultant, and Darkness Emergent right now is all it's cooking on my table.
um, I am Voivode Maquette. I am the person who found a way to monetize the Forever Storyteller curse. Uh, somebody told me that a few months ago, and it's just been like my favorite thing ever. Um,
That's awesome.
I will also be at Darkness Emergent, which I'm super excited about, especially since I find out like they keep adding all of these amazing things that are happening. Like there's going to be a Dark Age Nordic LARP happening on the first night.
Yeah.
Um, Super excited about that. I've always wanted to participate in a Nordic LARP because I will be 100% honest with everybody when I say this. I don't get it. Um, like I've seen Nordic LARPs being done, and I get it on a on a socio-political experiment basis. But once you get disciplines and powers involved, I don't understand how it works. So I'm looking forward to experiencing it firsthand. I'm also looking forward to hosting the two games that I'm going to be running while I'm there, a Camarilla and an Anarch game. And Also, I got to point this out here to everybody who might be considering um, joining the Patreon for Our World of Darkness is that it is picking up. And what I mean by that is like I'm getting various games going for
Yeah.
the Patreons for Patreon. If you join the Patreon to the gameplay settings, which are the Denizens of Hunger, Denizens of Desperation, and Denizens of Rage, if you join those, we build a game specifically around what you're trying to do, or we fit you into a game that's already happening with a maximum of 6 players. Which means like my dream of being able to like run a game every day of the week is very closely approaching.
It's
and
been a
I,
lot of fun so far.
oh my god, it's been so much fun. We've got a game going on that's directly connected to Thicker Than Water, where it's a coterie of vampires who are interacting in a different part of Portland. Because we realize that city is just massive, and like different groups can do things without people understanding. There is Big Trouble in Little Athens, which is like turning into like one of the most interesting intrigue-based investigation games I have ever run in my entire life, and it is so much fun. I've got a couple of Dark Age games that are in the works, which I'm super excited about because the concept of running Dark Ages in fifth edition has just been something that has just been teasing me this whole time. I'm so excited about doing it. I don't know, and also Hunter and Werewolf. Hunter and Werewolf are available. I will do those. I ran a Hunter game a while back. That I don't know. I fell in love with the system. It's Werewolf is so much fun and so much more darker than Vampire is, surprisingly, because you
Yeah.
actually have to interact with people.
Yeah.
Um, but aside from that, I guess I'm just super excited about everything that's happening. Next week we're going to be doing the Ministry, which
Woo!
that didn't sound very enthusiastic. Are you not looking forward to the Ministry?
I no, I'm always looking forward to doing this show,
Uh,
regardless of the topic.
but the Ministry. What are your
Huh?
thoughts?
Oh, you will have to find out next week, guys. Sorry, no
Fine,
spoilers.
fine. I'm super excited about the Ministry. I've always loved them because I feel like I have a different understanding of them than most
You
people.
do. You have a very different take on them than most people.
Which,
Yeah.
like you said, we will cover that in the next video and how everything goes with that. I'm super super excited. Um,
Yeah.
so with that, I think that's all we got, and I'm yeah,
Two more things. Two
yeah,
more things. First, the community challenge.
yes. What's our community challenge this week?
This week is going to be another concept challenge,
Hmm.
but I want people to, as much as I love the themes of the Lasombra, I'm going to shoot myself in the foot with this week's challenge.
Okay,
I want your against type Lasombra
okay,
concept. That's the community challenge for the week.
that sounds
Shoot me
interesting.
1 to 3 sentences, or if you've already got one fully drafted up, drop me a link to their backstory or whatever, and I'll check it out. But I want to hear what your against type Lasombras are, and get outside the box, get creative, and keep keep the creative energies going forward.
Yeah,
The
that's a good
second
idea.
thing is I am going to surprise Maquette with this one. I am offering yet again free character creation consultation for anyone who joins the Denizens of Rage Patreon tier.
Ooh, yeah. Let's get a werewolf game going. Like seriously,
Yes,
I want a werewolf game.
I'm not biased at all into why I'm offering it to that game specifically. But I am.
Silent
I'm
wants a
totally
werewolf
biased.
game.
I do. I really want a werewolf game,
Silent
but
wants a werewolf game.
I've been getting clients and people requesting my services, and I'm starting to kind of get a feel for the business a little better and the process. I've kind of refined some of the tweaks in my processes that needed refining, and I am more than happy and excited to get into some werewolf stuff. So let's show Maquette some love, guys. Join that tier.
That'd be
Uh,
awesome. I would. Oh
Join the
my god.
higher tier and request to play in that tier. Like I don't care how you want to do it, but
I
um,
ran a werewolf game a few weeks ago for some just amazing people, and The one thing that they did that bothered me was they didn't want the session recorded.
My
And it
heart.
was like one of the most amazing sessions because it was Werewolf and it was so good and I have nothing to show for it. But okay, so we have 4 episodes left of the player's guide.
Oh my gosh,
That's
we're
it.
almost through the. We're
We've
almost through
got
Vampire.
we've got the 4 episodes left of the. Well, I don't think we're ever going to be done with Vampire because we've had
No, but I
requests
mean
to do
like the books.
Bloodlines and stuff like
Oh
that.
yeah, yeah.
Um, but I think what we should do is let's go ahead and get those 4 clans out of the way, and I think before we take another break, because I like the idea of like taking a week off in between the books.
Yeah.
Let's do an episode that just discusses these like community challenges.
Okay.
Like
That sounds like a lot of fun.
I want to talk about like what you guys are doing and putting out there for these character concepts and stuff, and I think that would be a lot of
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, we'll do like maybe do like a highlight of like 1 or 2 from each video or
That would
something
be
like
really
that.
cool. That would be
That
really
would be
cool.
fun.
All right.
So,
I
all
gotta
right, well,
get going. I got yeah.
get your concepts in then.
I gotta
We
get
might have
going. I got a lot of stuff on my plate today that I'm super excited about doing,
yeah.
and but with that, I hope everybody had a great time, and I can't wait to see everybody in the next video. And yeah, you got your little catchphrase you want to give us?
Yeah, you can go ahead and drop that sick outro.
All right. You guys have a great night. Bye.
Have a good one. Bye.